billion years has been a story of unbelievable flexibility and resilience, and the ability to not only survive a cataclysm, but to emerge from it renewed and refreshed and ready to develop in new and creative directions. So, in short, the answer to your question is yes, of course we will face another cataclysm, and the real test for us as human beings is how we deal with that and how we emerge from it. Do we become another extinct species like many others on this planet, or do we ride over the disaster into a new realm that lies beyond?
Okay, let's go to the calls now. San Francisco we go, west of the Rockies. Hello, Doug. You're up with us on Coast to Coast.
Hey, always great to talk with you, Mr. Norrie, and it's certainly an honor to talk to Mr. Hancock. He's had an enormous effect on my life in a most positive fashion, and I'd certainly like his opinion on a subject I'd love to relate to him.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd love to hear from you.
Oh, fantastic. I really want to thank you first for your underworld. I mean, it really went on to expose megalithic architecture in the Japanese, Okinawan, Taiwanese island chain. Even today, the Korean and Japanese flotsam that's thrown off of their beaches from the public washes up on each other's shores. So your geological thesis of a united Korean and Japanese and Chinese peninsula during the last great epoch of deep ice is, to me, unavoidable. I don't see how anyone can deny it. And the proto-Japanese Caucasoid Jomon people, who were the progenitors of the hairy Ainu in Hokkaido, is similar to the megalithic Mayan, who retreated from urban existence to subsistence economies later on, are possibly the people who created the sunken ruins that you mentioned. Even National Geographic Channel confirmed that they found carvings on those ruins. So anyone denying their validity just shocks me.
Yeah.
And certainly even Japanese cinema paid due homage to Daimajin, which was kind of like a pre-Japanese golem, if you will, which were megalithic sculptures of the Gikidojin, or gods of these people, who were the manifest wrath of gods, so to speak, who would walk whenever nature was threatened.
He's your research assistant here, Graham.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Fantastic call. I'm really, really, really pleased to hear it. Thank you for mentioning Underworld. After I'd finished Fingerprints of the Gods, my feeling was that I needed to take the inquiry to a new level, and it was clear that a global flood, which is what is documented at the end of the Ice Age, was part of the picture, and that's why in the mid-1990s I learned, and my wife Santa, who's a photographer, learned to scuba dive, took our lives in our hands and went exploring for underwater ruins at depths down to about 125 feet all around the world. And indeed, a huge focus of our research was Japan, and we did hundreds of hours of diving in Japanese waters and found gigantic stone circles underwater, and of course thoroughly explored the mysterious complex at Yonaguni, the most southwestern of all the Japanese islands, and indeed went into Japanese mythology and the whole mystery of the Jomon. The fact is that there are megalithic ruins of unknown origin above water all over Japan, which most people haven't even heard of, and these ruins simply continue underwater. And when you do the geology, you find that vast areas of land were exposed before the end of the Ice Age that are now underwater. And I felt that it was necessary for me to take the inquiry to that next level. I only wish that marine archaeologists would also explore that instead of going diving always for shipwrecks, and that the funds of major marine institutions could be put a little bit into exploring the lands that were covered by rising sea levels at the end of the Ice Age. I think it would bring us a whole new perspective on human prehistory.
Absolutely. Off to Indiana we go now with Andrew, east of the Rockies. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to share a kind of a theory that I had about the whole Atlanteans thing when their islands went down.
Yeah.
We were talking about how they could have possibly gone to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda was on last week talking about how, the Mayans were really advanced and everything. And I thought maybe also quite a few of the people might have gone to Tikal, where the Mayans were located.
Tikal in Guatemala.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful place. I've been there. I mean, Tikal is part of the overall Mayan culture, And I think we need to recognize, first of all, that the Mayans themselves are an extraordinarily ancient civilization, and secondly, that everything they built and created was built on top of an earlier layer of civilization and culture. The archaeologists know them as the Olmecs, which take us back into the mists of prehistory, and that certainly Mayan civilization and the Mayan sacred sites were a legacy of an even earlier culture, which in turn was a legacy of an even earlier culture before that, and that's what brings us back finally to the survivors of a lost civilization at the end of the Ice Age.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all I really had.
All right.
Thank you for
Thanks,
that point. Have you been to Tikal yourself, by the way?
Oh, he's already gone.
Oh, right.
Maybe he's on his way there.
Maybe so. Maybe so. It's a fantastic site. Absolutely amazing.
And
spooky.
we're not going to Santa Fe, Texas. Lynette on the wild card line. Hi, Lynette.
Yes, hello. I'll make this really quick. Just a couple of quick points. Edgar Casey also prognosticated his reincarnation in 2012 in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was wondering if anyone knows if there's been any surveys done with brain-injured patients. Sometimes people claim to be psychic after a traumatic head injury.
Mm-hmm.
And also the alpha states that are achieved by the Buddhists, as an example,
mm-hmm.
seem to scare governments like China. Do you think that's maybe because they're afraid of the power of collective consciousness? And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Thank you. You've made an absolutely excellent point. Governments all around the world are deeply concerned by altered states of consciousness and absolutely want to stop us having those altered states of consciousness. And of course, visionary plants are not by any means the only way to get into altered states of consciousness. Certain meditative techniques, such as those that have been explored and elaborated by the Buddhists, will also get us into the requisite altered state of consciousness. Even rhythmic music and certain forms of dance are capable of doing this. And wherever this happens, you find that governments want to stop it. They want to prevent it happening. And to me, this is one of the greatest conspiracies of the modern age, whether it's the Chinese government suppressing the altered state techniques of the Buddhists, or whether it's the American and British governments preventing adults from exploring their own consciousness with visionary plants. The common element is that the government wants to keep control. It actually wants to keep control of our consciousness. It may pretend to us that we are free to buy this or that. We can choose one or other commercial product, but really we're not free to explore our own consciousness. And there's a vast mind control game at work which seeks to structure human thinking according to a very narrow pattern that serves the interest of what finally will turn out to be very small, powerful interest groups in our society.
All right, next up we go to Ohio. Mike, take it away. Hi, Michael.
Good evening, George and Graham.
Hi.
George,
Yeah.
have you ever seen John Carpenter's movie They Live,
Yes.
where the sunglasses let you see David Icke's reptilian people? Some suggest the sunglasses were a metaphor for the mushroom vision and therefore banned. And George, Graham is clearly Terence McKenna's successor.
He sure is.
Well, that's a tremendous compliment that you've just paid to me, because the late, great Terence McKenna was one of the truly magnificent minds that has lived on this planet in recent times. A tremendous thinker, a man who was open to all kinds of possibilities that most of us are closed off to. And so I'd like to take this opportunity also to pay tribute to Terence McKenna and to the wonderful, wonderful work that he did.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Next up, Ontario, Canada on the international line. Hello, Greg.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
My question goes back to your discussion on consciousness. And I was wondering if Mr. Hancock believes that consciousness is a phenomenon that is independent of matter, or if it's something that is tied up with the substance of our bodies.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. I absolutely believe that consciousness is independent of matter. And I think that one of the great mistakes of modern science is to believe that consciousness is generated by the brain. I think this is a mistake. I think that consciousness is mediated by the brain, much in the same way that a television signal is mediated by the television set to allow us to access it. The signal is there all the time, but we need a TV